Welcome back, everyone. It's been a while since I posted, but I will update you guys on that later. For now, last episode, we prepped the car to accept some new frame rails we're going to install into the electric Trans Am. So here we're going to finish up the trimming of the frame rails. I've marked out my cut lines at the front of the rails based off of my 0 point here in the center of the rail. And then I've also marked my cut lines on the rear portion of the rails where we're going to trim this all up. I've slapped this onto the bandsaw, and we're going to go ahead and slice these up so that we can get them fit in the car. Now this will be a trial fit to see how everything lines up. After the cuts are made, everything's looking pretty good as far as a pre-fit goes. I need to figure out how we're going to gusset this and make the frame rails strong, make them look like they were one piece. One other thing I also need to do is I need to install a front cross member on the frame rails, because I cut the floors out of the car, and when I cut the floors out, I basically cut most of the supporting cross members out of the vehicle as well. Not that we'd be able to use any of those old cross members installing these frame rails, but we need to make a cross member. So I cut a cross member, threw it in my makeshift spray booth, and we're going to go ahead and put a coat of epoxy primer on this to give this some corrosion protection before we install it in the car. Okay, I've cleaned up my spray gun now, got it all taken apart, and then cleaned out all the primer from the inside of the gun. This is epoxy primer, so I don't want to let it sit. It will harden real hard. It's tougher than regular high build primer. I want to see if this is close to dry right now, so touch the paper where I test sprayed some areas. It's dry down there. See how the metal's doing. That feels pretty good. Dry to the touch. It's been about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, and this is dry enough for me to move around. I'm gonna let it sit for a while longer, but it looks good. Once that cross member properly dried, I went ahead and set it in the car. I set the length, and then I also set the level on it. I also installed these plates on the rocker panel to give it more strength, and then I welded the cross member to that plate. Here we're going to go ahead and start making some gussets for the frame rail. I used some of the old frame rail to make these gussets. Go ahead, took a plasma cutter and kind of slicing it into 3 pieces, and I'll make gussets out of those 3 pieces. This is my first cut on that frame rail, and we'll be using this first plate as a gusset between the frame rail and the new frame rail. I should say the old frame rail and the new frame rail. So here I'm taking all the slag off from the plasma cutter, and then also shaping it up a little bit so that I get what I need off of it to fit into the 2 frame rails. Alright, this piece is looking really nice. It cleaned up good, shaped up good. We're going to use this probably on the inside of this rail, and then we're going to go ahead and start making the other part of the gusset. So here I couldn't just put straight plates in the frame rails. the old frame rails are curved, the new frame rails are straight, and so I actually had to shape this in order to fit both sides, a straight piece and an angled piece. And this isn't just a flat piece of steel, it's actually an L shape, and I've got a couple of different angles going on here. I'll show you that in a minute. But right now I'm just trying to get a pressed flange in there to meet up to both frame rails, and so I made this makeshift press that I could put some pressure on the frame rail, and then I also held the other piece down on my jig table with a piece of steel underneath to make the crease. I don't have a press in my shop, so I had to figure something out and make it work. Sometimes when you don't have the tools and you're not going to do this too often, it's a waste of money to go buy some equipment that you're only going to use once or twice. So I went ahead and just tried to figure something else out, made it, and kind of utilized what I had. I put these creases in there. I'm hammering them down using a dolly on a stick to flatten everything out that I need flat, and then this all got the shape that I wanted to get. You can see a little better here what I've got going on. I've got some vice grips holding down this plate, the press squeezing an edge into it, and then the back area there is where the original frame lever bends around a corner. And then on the other side you can see this is an L-shaped gusset, and so the bottom needed to stay perfectly flat and straight. So I got a few things going on here, and here in a few minutes I'll show you how this all fits up and what my master plan is behind this whole Frankenstein piece. So now that I think I've got everything where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and take everything back apart, and I'm going to show you kind of how this offset crush looked after I got done pressing it all down on this gusset. Once again, you know, if you don't got the tools that you need, you know, a good thing to do is make it. This probably I had scrap steel in my garage, and I went and bought these rods. The rods were only like 15 bucks. So it was fairly easy to build this, drill a couple of holes in some steel, put some rods through it, and then go ahead and crush what you need to crush. After examining it, I was liking the way it turned out. It looks pretty good. You can kind of see that offset crush right there, and you can see the angle I had to do. I had to split that rail and get me that angle. But once I got it all done and test fitted, needed a little further adjustment to make sure that it fit both pieces, the old frame rail and the new frame rail. So had to go back to the drawing board and just clean it up a little bit, or I should say go back to the anvil here and cleaning up a little bit. So I'm much happier with that dimple now and how it lines up. We'll go ahead and throw it in the frame rail, and I'll show you what I got going on here and how this part is going to fit here. So it slips in right up until that crush that I got, and so with that crush, it's kind of flush to the outer face of that frame rail now. I need to trim up the new frame rail to match up a little bit, so I'm going to just mark off where that dimple is, and I'm going to grind out the amount of area that that dimple sits in, and that'll give me a perfect lineup on the new and old frame rail. Okay, it's looking pretty good now. I'm liking the way that dimple fits on the frame rail where I trimmed it up. Let me show you guys what it all looks like now that it's all pressed and cleaned up. This piece will just slide right in up until that dimple, and then it sits pretty flush with the new frame rail right there. And this will be my gusset to attach the new and old frame rail. So I'm happy with this, and we can move on to the next step, which is prepping it for welding. So let's get to that point and see how that all looks. Okay, I'm prepping the gusset to go inside of the frame rail here. It'll give us some extra support. What I've done is drilled 3/8 holes inside of the frame rail, and that I can weld to my gusset plate on the inside. And this would be my gusset plate here. The way this works is we're just going to take this, slip it inside, and then if you notice, I cleaned up where all the welds are going to be on this gusset plate. So, and then I have clean metal where it's going to weld to the edge of the rail as well. This gusset plate will just slip right inside this frame rail, like so. And then I've got it to where I will screw it all together. So I pre-drilled all the holes before I did all this, and when I screw it back together, the plate is very tight up against the frame rail. Keeps it in there nicely. And then on the frame of the car, you can see I did the same thing. I drilled out holes where that gusset plate's going to go, and then I have some pre-drilled holes that I'm going to install that frame rail in as well. So on the inside, you can see that I have the front cross member put in, the frame rails kind of lined up with it, mocked up, and then on the inside of the frame rails, I had to put a gusset plate to bridge the gap on the inside. It didn't quite sit flush on the inside, so I had to put this gusset plate in there. So now we can go ahead and start welding the frame rails together. First I'm going to weld the gussets into the frame rail. And then here you can see I'm cleaning up my weld areas. So basically taking any excess paint off around where I'm going to weld, so I don't get a lot of splatter and stuff like that. Now, I wanted to prime these to make sure they don't rust beforehand. It would have been easier to not prime them and then just have them and then just weld them in. But I didn't feel like I'd have enough corrosion protection on the inside of the rails if I did it that way. So this way I've got epoxy primer on those gussets. I'm going to remove the paint where I'm going to weld. We'll take off paint about an inch around it, and then I'll have some clean metal to weld to. I don't get a lot of spatter when I do that, and my welds welded really nice and flat. I didn't have large bird turd welds. They laid nice and flat when I did the welding, meaning I got enough paint removed around the edges of my holes so that I could do a nice clean weld. So now that I got all the plug welds done, I'm going to go ahead and check my level, just to make sure that I don't need to adjust anything before I weld my vertical. And here you can see I'm 0 on my vertical and almost 0 on my horizontal. So 0.07 on my horizontal. I'm pretty confident on this. We'll just check the side real quick. That's looking really good. So now that I've got this rail pretty square, I can go ahead and tack it into the front of the cross member so we don't twist, we don't go up or down, we don't move, and we are making this all as a one-piece unit. I'm really excited about this because you know, the car was a modified unibody before, and now we're putting a full frame rail system in it. I do still have the front subframe to contend with, but I have a plan for that, and I will share with you guys later how I'm going to attach all this and make this just one unit. I'm really excited how this is going to turn out. Now that I've got the front tacked in, we're square, it's level left to right, front to back. I can go ahead and finish welding this. Now I'm welding the two frame rails together. Before I had welded the gussets in place, but now I'm going to weld the seams between the two rails. And so that's here. I'm doing the vertical weld right there. And then I'm going to do the weld on the bottom. And this will become one unit now and a solid frame rail. Alright, I'll finish up my second pass on these rails, and then we'll take a look and see how these welds turn out. I'm liking what I'm seeing right now. I'll end up grinding the faces off, but that's looking pretty good. My spot welds are flat and round. My vertical and bottom weld are very flat as well. This is the front cross member welded into the rails as well. I put some etching primer on it so they don't rust. Being welded in now, it's looking like a full framed car almost. It still won't be a full framed car technically because of the front subframe. Like I said, you can see how close that is to the front cross member, and I'll show you guys later on what I'm going to do with that subframe and my front cross member that I've installed in the car. And so this car will almost be like a full frame car when I'm done, which is very exciting because it's going to be very stiff and it's going to be great. So we're going to one more gusset to weld in. I did the lower and the outside, but I have to weld in the gusset plate on the inside still. And so we're going to go ahead and do that right here. I'm prepping the gusset plate so that I can clean the paint off of it and get that ready for welding. And so here you can see I marking it all up where things match up together. And then I'm going to remove this plate so that I can grind off all the areas that I need a clean welding surface at. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Now that I've got all the paint removed, installed the gusset plate back inside the vehicle, and we're going to go ahead and weld all these back up now. If you can see the welds are welding very nice, becoming very flat, and so meaning I've removed enough paint. I don't have a lot of spatter from my welding, so this should turn out very clean as well. I'll get all the holes plug welded. I'll weld the seam along the frame rail, the front and the rear. You can see that I welded the gusset plate all around, so it is welded to the old frame rail, and it's welded on the top, the bottom, and the front of the new frame rail. So this makes it almost like it's one piece or a solid piece part of the rail. I've cleaned up the edges where I've welded it all together, but I wanted to add another reinforcement plate just to make sure that there was no flex in the frame rail here at this point. You know, one of the things that I'm always worried about is strength, and so just for a little extra strength and a little extra precaution, what I did is I made this gusset plate that spans across beyond the gusset plate on the inside of the rear frame rail and way beyond that gusset plate on the front of the new frame rail. Some cars have this when you'll see these in lowriders. They call them fish plates, and it's to strengthen extra areas of the frame rail while they're hopping their cars. So I thought this would be a good added security plate to put in there. This gives me peace of mind at the end of the day that everything is solid and I don't have to worry about flex on the frame rail. I did not want this thing bending anywhere, and so I added this plate in. You can see I welded it around the front, sides, and everything, and then I plug welded it in the rear on the old frame rail. So turned out pretty nice. I'm very happy with this. Everything looks amazing, and I have peace of mind now. This is what it looks like on the inside. You know, the gusset plate spanning into the old frame rail. You can see where I made the dimple on the outer edge, and then you can see I welded in the gusset plate on the inside weld as well, and then I put a tack weld in on the bottom of the frame rail. I added these little supports between the rocker and the frame rails toward the rear. There again, just a little extra support so that it's all seems to be one unit. Yeah, so these are all welded in now. It's looking good. Next thing to do is to start building some suspension cross members. Ooh, this is going to be exciting. Can't wait for these next ones. So I will leave you guys at this point with these pictures of some cars I saw. Remember, share this with a friend, and hit the like and subscribe button for me so that other people can enjoy this as well. More views I get, and the more that I can work on this channel. You guys stay safe, and thanks for watching.